one of the biggest problems in all of product development is the fact that customers speak a different language from the language that product developers need to deal with. And now, what do I mean by that? Customers tend to talk in very soft customer language. So they'll use expressions like they want a powerful computer or a roomy front seat in their car. Now, unfortunately, words like that are of very little use to product developers because the engineers need to somehow translate that soft customer language into some kind of a technical specification that they can design against and control and measure. The notion being, here I have two alternative designs, A and B. How do I decide whether A or B is the more powerful design? Well, you need something to measure against. And what I see happening is that the engineers sort of assume they know what the words powerful mean or roomy mean. They know what the customer means. And they just sort of choose those specs naively using their own definition. I find that about half the time they guess wrong. And so what's the solution to that? What you need to do is drill on the customer. You can't assume anything. You have to drill on the customer to really get a deep understanding of how they define the word powerful or the word roomy. And the way to do that is to have them tell you stories about their experience. I want to hear about computers that felt more powerful or less powerful to them in the past. I want them to talk about various cars they've had where the front seat felt roomier or less roomy. And then we can choose the specs more intelligently. Now, for instance, for an interesting sidelight to this is that in certain industries there come to be accepted ways, accepted metrics or technical specifications that everybody designs against. And so in computers for many years it's been some kind of a measure of clock speed. Used to be called MIPS, millions of instructions per second. Now it's measured in gigahertz, and RAM. And those were the two primary things that everybody designed against. I was talking with someone from Intel a few years ago who said that they've sort of come to the conclusion that gigahertz is not all that relevant anymore. And I said, why not? Of course it is. They said, no, because today's chips are so incredibly fast that the raw processing speed of the chip is rarely a constraint. The thing that is a constraint today is the phenomenon they call bandwidth, which is how quickly you can move data around on a local area network or especially up and down off the internet. And it turns out that the clock speed of the chip has very little to do with that. Well, how would you know that unless you're really plugged into customers and hearing them tell you stories about what slows them down today? And it was rarely the local processing speed of their computer, had much more to do with this issue of bandwidth.